till now we have discussed about client-side scripting within ServiceNow, wherein we covered our client script, UI policies, and then we went and saw a little bit about UI action. Basically, on client side, we didn't explore much on our server-side code within UI actions. So now, from today onwards, whatever we are going to learn, whatever we are going to do, it will be on server side. When I say server side, it will be like whatever changes you are going to do, it is going to impact your database. It is going to impact your, server side things. It is going to impact and update anything within servers within your database of ServiceNow. So from today onwards, basically we are going to discuss more of server side code. What are the different areas within server side wherein we can write code and what type of code we can write? Why do we need server side? All that we are going to discuss. Okay. So in server side, firstly, we are going to discuss majorly about business rule, because business rule will help you to, get the data from database. Till now, you have done the validation on the form. You have not done any update or anything on the record. When I say update on the record, like you are changing the state of incident or you are updating any, incident or problem record. You have not done that. You are just trying to make it mandatory, non-mandatory based on one value selected. You are trying to populate another field. So everything was on the form level. Now, whatever thing we are going to do, that thing will be going to impact your database. When I say impact, you are going to update, you are going to insert, you are going to delete a record from the database, or you are going to write query to fetch the data from the database. In technical terms, it is like you are going to perform CRUD operation, CRUD, which means create, read, update, and delete. Okay. So in this, firstly, we are going to discuss about business rule. What is business rule? Why do we use business rule? And then when do business rule execute? Okay. When, what are the different scenarios under which your business rule will work? What are the scenarios when your business rule will not work? Steps to create business rule and what do you use in business rule? Like when we were discussing client side API, we saw like, client script is there. You can use G_form, G_user, G_scratchpad you can use in your client side. Similarly, what all things are available in business rules within ServiceNow. And then we will talk about little bit about dot walking within ServiceNow, how we can move from one table to another table. Like you would have seen on our incident form, there is something called caller field, right? So caller field has a data not from incident table, it is having data from user table. So this is a reference field, which means this field is not existing. This field is not fetching the data from this table. It is fetching the data from other table, which is your user table. Okay. So basically, how to go from this incident table to this user table, that we will see. How we can walk, we can do a dot walk from one table, how we can connect to another table, that also we will see via dot walking. If you have any reference field on the table, you can utilize that field to do dot walk. Okay, so basically what is your business rule? Business rule is nothing but a piece of JavaScript code which runs on the server. Okay, it is also JavaScript code. The JavaScript same thing you utilize in client side also. The only difference is your business rule will execute on the server side and it is used to perform following operations like display of a record, or you wanted to insert a new record. When I say insert a record, you are creating a new record within the table, or you are going to update a record, or you are going to delete a record within service. Okay, and if you are trying to query a table to fetch certain record, for example, you want list of all the incidents which got created today. So you are trying to query the table to fetch some result. Okay, query in the sense you are trying to build a certain condition that okay, there may be some 10 lakh record present on my incident table, but I don't want to see all the record. Rather, I want the records which were created today. So you are writing condition that created on today, give me that record. Okay, and so your business rule is a JavaScript code which will run under these conditions. So whenever you want to display a record, whenever you want to insert a record, or you wanted to do update or delete. Let's say you wanted to delete something within ServiceNow and you want to perform some action. Let's say you deleted one record on incident table. You wanted to trigger notification to your manager that you deleted some record. That can be done via business rule. Okay, can be used to change values in field when certain conditions are met. For example, based on my incident state, I can make a particular field to have certain values based on my incident. If my incident state is moved to work in progress, I can make my short description have certain values. Okay, so if I wanted to make such type of thing, I want to update my database with such type of thing, I can use business rule. Most important thing, this executes on server side and it executes very fast than client script. So client script, because they are on the browser side, they are validation, but server side it executes very fast and directly updates your database. If you do something by mistake, you will be into trouble because you will not get much chances of reverting it. So you have to be little careful with what you are writing in your business rule. So business rule is nothing but a piece of code, a piece of JavaScript code which runs whenever a record is displayed, inserted, updated, or deleted. Okay. This is just a theoretical part. We will see how business rules are there, how business rule execute, and what are the different APIs, how we can query the table, how we can insert a record within table. That part we will see. Okay. So there are different conditions under which your business rule gets executed within ServiceNow. First is we have to understand what are the different types, or I could say what are the different types of business rule we have in ServiceNow. So there are 4 types of business rule within ServiceNow. One is before business rule, one is after business rule, another one is async, 4th one is display business rule. When you guys will go for interview, this is very basic question and very favorite question of all the interviews. They may ask, what are the different types of business rule within ServiceNow? Okay, so you have before, after, async, and display. Each business rule has its own purpose when it is written. Okay, we will try to understand when what particular business rule is written. So before business rule, okay, this is one of the type of business rule. When do we write? When data is submitted, when you actually submit the form and before data gets updated into database. That time, if any if any rule gets executed, that is called before business rule. For example, you have a scenario wherein the moment you submit the form, from the time till the time it gets updated into database, you want to do something. For example, you want to trigger some notification before it gets updated actually into database, right? Then you will be using before business rule. Or you want to, let's say, before a problem record is created, incident should be closed, right? So condition is this, that before you are creating a problem record within ServiceNow, incident state should be moved to close complete. Such type of validation can be performed via before business. Okay, guys, this is very important. Try to understand. If you are not able to understand, you can raise question in between also. I don't have any problem. But if you don't understand this part, then it will become very difficult to handle admin part also and development part also. Development part will definitely be difficult, and admin also will be little bit, because in admin part also you do a lot of troubleshooting of existing code. You don't write much of code, but you do a lot of troubleshooting of existing code. So clarity of what type of business rule, what type of API execute when is very much important. Okay, so this is your before business rule. After business rule executes, when your record is saved into the database, okay, the form is already submitted to the database. Means, let's say you have done certain changes on your database, and after that you want to do something. Let me show some small example. Okay, let's say this is my one minute, let me take some. So let's say this is my incident form. Okay, let's say I update the channel to chat. Okay, after my channel field gets updated to chat, I want some new record to be created. I want some some additional thing to be displayed, or additional work. I want the work node to be updated, let's say. Okay, so then what I will do, I want to write after business rule, which means my data got updated into database. After that, I want to do something. So I will be using after business rule. Before is when before data got updated. After is what? When after data got updated. Data is already updated. into database, then you want to do perform something, which means you will be writing after business rule. Before you will be using when before you are updating the database, you want to do something, that time you will be using before, as simple. Okay, so one classic example is like creating a problem ticket for P1. After a P1 ticket is created, after it is created, not before, after it is created within the system, you want to create a problem ticket for that P1, then you will be using after business rule. Okay, the third type is async business rule. Are you guys aware about synchronous and asynchronous calls within ServiceNow, or do you understand what is asynchronous and what is synchronous? Yes, no, maybe.
No, Devendra. First time.
Okay. So synchronous means there are two types of server call. One is called asynchronous call, another one is called synchronous call. Server call means this is your what to say, ServiceNow. Okay, or let's say this is your browser. You try to search something, how to update field in ServiceNow. So what will happen? This is the query. The moment you hit enter, your system is a client system. This query is going and hitting to Google. It is trying to search in Google how to update field in ServiceNow. So your client, your browser is a client and Google is server, and it is returning you result, right? So similarly in ServiceNow also, the moment you try to update any record, what happens? Two type of calls are invoked. Invoked means two type of call is happened. One is synchronous call, another one is asynchronous. Synchronous call means whatever you have submitted, it will, unless and until you get reply back, server will your form will wait. Typical example is whenever you try to go for your government site, you try to put your Aadhaar number or OTP number, right? What happens? It will literally wait whether you are entering right OTP or not, correct? Because if it is not valid, it will not allow you to enter. So this is synchronous, which means you send a request and you are waiting for reply. Most of the scenarios, like let's say we are chatting in WhatsApp, right? Sometimes what happens, there will be we are trying to chat with multiple people, one or two people, right? So there will be somebody with whom we are chatting very actively, which means we are sending the request and we are sending the messages, and we are getting reply immediately, right? That is called synchronous. And some people will be, we have sent some message and maybe they will reply after some time. That is asynchronous. Okay, which is running in the background. Other people can reply you back, right? It is not necessary that whenever you are replying to them, then only they will be able to. They can reply you back time also. But we may chat somebody directly one-on-one, right? That is synchronous call. So similarly, what happens in ServiceNow also, whenever you try to update a record, ServiceNow does synchronous call and asynchronous call. When you write, whenever you update your before, whenever you write your before business rule, after business rule, those are synchronous call, which means ServiceNow, the moment you submit the form, ServiceNow waits for database, for server to reply back that yes, the record has been updated. Okay. But whereas with asynchronous call, ServiceNow will not wait. When I say ServiceNow will not wait, which means you will be able to do other things. Let's say I updated this record, but what is happening in the back end, there will be certain emails which will be getting automatically triggered based on, what I have updated. So it is not stopping me to work on this one. It is happening in the background. Okay, whenever, most of the time, in real life example, if you see, right, what happens in the real time scenario is like we try to do our work, and in simultaneously in the background we try to listen music also. Okay, so what is happening? That music is running in the background, okay, and actively you are working on something else, right? So this is asynchronous call, which means the operation is performed in the backend. It has nothing to do with it is not actually waiting for reply. I hope this is clear.
Yeah.
Yes, no, or confused?
Yes. No, understood.
Okay. So ServiceNow does asynchronous plus synchronous call with before and after business rule. It will do more of synchronous call, which means whatever data you are updating, it will go and hit server, and it will wait for server to reply back, yes, the data has been updated. But whereas with asynchronous business rule, ServiceNow gives you flexibility that you can execute some code in the background. Like you are working on incident form, but you can trigger a scheduled job. You are working in on a problem form, but you can trigger an email from ServiceNow in the backend. You don't have to worry about that email, how it is getting triggered, everything. You can write a piece of code and it will execute in the background, and you don't have to wait. For example, right now I am logged into this instance. Simultaneously, a lot of processes will be happening in the background. Let's say my instance nodes and all will be there, which will be my database will be there with which will be getting filled with a lot of data, or some cleaning will be happening in the background. Okay, so ServiceNow has third type of business rule, that is async business rule, which run asynchronously, which means the moment you write any code in this business rule, it will run in the background. It will not run in the foreground. Okay, one classic example is schedule job within ServiceNow. These are asynchronous calls which happens in the background. You have to put schedule job means there is a job, there is a work which is scheduled for a specific time. When time arrives, it will happen. Let's say Yugandhar came and he said like, Devendra, I want all incident report which is from last 6 months at morning 5 a.m. IST. Now there are two ways. I can daily wake up at 5 a.m. which is not possible for me at all, and I have to send that report somehow because Yugandhar has asked. Or what I can do within ServiceNow, I can write a schedule job which will run at 5 a.m. irrespective of me coming and pulling that report. That schedule job itself will pull all the report data and will send it to Yugandhar. Okay, so this is without me logging into ServiceNow. This is happening in the background of ServiceNow. I am not active on that instance. So schedule job itself is handling that. So that is a classic example of async business rule. Okay, another example which I have covered, tried to cover is SLA calculation. SLA part, remember when we were there in our initial classes, that service level agreement, right? Whenever you create incident, there will be some SLAs which will be getting attached to that particular incident, which runs simultaneously based on whatever incident state is there in the background. It will not bother whether you are updating the record or not updating the record. It will keep on calculating how many days this incident is opened or closed. Let me see if this incident has that SLA. No, it doesn't have. Let me try to make it like in progress. Let me make I something here. Okay, this field I have made it mandatory, so I don't think so we have any data for it. Let's see, this is the one which is already existing in the system. This also SLA usually works on different condition. Okay, it gets attached to any particular record based on condition and table you have configured for that. I believe this is out of the box instance, so they have not set up something for already P1 incident, but we can configure SLAs. That part we will cover a little later. But SLAs work in the background. For example, this child incident is there, right? So I can update this incident and simultaneously Fakroni can work on this incident. So Fakroni is working on this incident, even though this is child incident, and I'm working on parent incident. We are both independently working on both the incident, even though there is a relation of parent and child incident between both the record. So Fakroni is working for me in the background on this particular incident. So this is one classic example of async business rule. Okay, and another one is like when you guys are working on integrations. So most of the people they try to write a lot of business rule, asynchronous business rule for integration, so that it should not bother, because integration means you are connecting two systems. So it might happen that my ServiceNow is up, but the system with which I am trying to integrate that ServiceNow, it is down. So what will happen if I write a synchronous job? my system will wait for that system to give reply, and that system is already down. What will happen? I will not be able to do anything in service, right? It will hold me, it will completely stop me. So what I will try to do, I'll try to do it as asynchronous. So even that system is up or not up, this will be running in the background, and I will be allowed to do whatever my regular tasks are. Okay. Then we have something called display business rule. So your display business rule is like you want to display certain record, right? Based upon certain condition, you wanted to display certain record. That time your display business rule will execute. Okay. So it is like you are building certain condition that I want list of all the records which were created by Ashwini on incident table in this particular month. Okay. So I send this query to database, and before that results are returned to me, this display business rule will work. One classic example would be like HR or let's say you log into HR module within ServiceNow. HR module is available to specific people only. Let's say Ravi has his pay slips, okay, or let's say Ravi has his payslip account, which maybe I'm trying to access. So it will check whether I am the right person to. I said like, okay, send me all the payslips of Ravi which were generated for the financial year 2022. I send this query to ServiceNow. ServiceNow before displaying that result to me, it will check whether I'm really Ravi Kiran who's trying to access Ravi Kiran record, or I'm somebody else, and I should not be allowed to see that record. That time you'll be rating your display business rule. Before a record is displayed to the user, you want to do certain validation, you want to do certain condition, right? There you'll be using display business rule. Okay. So these are the 4 different type of business rules within ServiceNow. Okay, and each business rule will work on a combination of insert, update, delete, like CURD operation. C means create, R means read, means you are trying to fetch the record, U means updating the record, D means deleting the record. Okay, so how do we write business rule? It is as simple as that. You have to go and type business rule in application navigator, or you can right click on your incident form and go to configure business rule directly. So you have to do right click, you have to configure, and you have to do click on business rule within ServiceNow. So you will be getting this type of a form. Okay, once you do click on business rule. So what will happen at the beginning? It will have a name. Name is like text field. You can put any logical name which relates to your requirement, and the table to which you want this business rule get executed. The business rules are binded to one specific table. It will not be running on all the table. Because if you run it on all the table, what will happen if those conditions are not matching, that business will continuously fail. So we bind it specific to a table. So what happens, we will be selecting, let's say our incident table or our user registration table, we'll be selecting, and then we will be making sure this active field is there. Active means this record, this business rule is active and working on that field. Okay, and then we have to click on advance. The moment we click on advance, we get these options to set up, like when to run. Basically, when to run is like what are the conditions when my business rule will run. Second tab is actions. What action will be performed when these conditions are met. Third is advanced tab. Let's say there are certain things which you are not able to do via drag and drop, or just by configuring, you want to write certain complex conditions. Let's say date calculation, let's say payroll calculation, or some time zone calculation. You can utilize advanced tab wherein you will be writing the code. Okay. If you see this particular screenshot, what all we do, we have here. First, we have something called when. When means we have to select the type of business rule, or basically when I want this business rule to get executed. Whether I want like before the data is updated to database, or after it is updated into the database, which means after business rule, or I want this business rule to get executed in the background, which means async business rule, or I want that after my query is submitted and before the record is displayed to me, that time, which means I will be writing a display business rule. So I will be selecting that type from here, and then these are the different CURD operation which I said. Like before insert, the record is before inserting a record to the table, I want to do something, or before update I want to do, or before delete, or before query I want to do certain thing on my business rule, I will be selecting appropriate type. The order field here is very important, not just here, across all the areas it is important within ServiceNow, because order defines which will execute first. The lesser the order is within that table, let's say you have 10 business rule and your business rule order is 10, which means your business rule will execute first. Other business rules should have higher order, let's say 200, 300, means your is smaller one, so your will get the priority to execute. If all have same order, then it will take its own advantage things. And based on, before business rule will execute, then after business rule will execute, that order it will follow. Then we have something called filter conditions, which means we will be building the conditions upon which this business rule will get executed. Let's say I want a business rule to get executed on whenever the state is new, my incident state is new. During that time only the business rule should execute, or when my incident state is closed, during that time only the business rule should execute. I will be selecting that particular type. Okay. And then we have something called role condition. Most of the time you will not see this. Most of the people have been utilized, but when you are working in a particular scoped application and you want like your business rule should execute only on a certain role, which means a user is having a particular role, during that time only this business rule should execute, you will be selecting that role here. Okay.